Hey everybody, we should be live right now. I need to get this connected to one other group. We should be good to go. Hopefully that'll get going. But yeah, so today, excited. It says that everything's working. So for anybody that is hopping on live, please let me know in the comments section that you can hear us, you can see us, that everything's working. We're actually streaming this to 5 different places at once. And so this is the first time I've done it. Hopefully the software and technology holds up. A lot of times things like to create some issues whenever you need it to work. But some people are saying we're live, so it's working well. So thank you. Cynthia said, perfect.
Sure we're recording.
Yes. This one automatically records. So worst case scenario, we're all recording and we could always post it after. But we've got people on Facebook, on YouTube, everything. So awesome. Excited to be here. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. This is actually, Leanna, you had brought this up that we needed to have a discussion. And I'm glad that we were able to get together and have a lot of amazing experts, obviously, on this panel to be able to talk about the Amazon GTIN issues. We're doing, obviously, a panel discussion and Q&A if we have some time at the end for some questions. We've got a lot of stuff to cover and some, I guess, predetermined topics. So, yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and just get into it. First, I'll let everybody kind of introduce themselves. So Nathan, if we can start with you, just give a quick introduction and we'll move forward.
Yeah, I work very closely with Jim over the last couple decades now, and he and I brainstorm what's going on with these marketplaces and using the internet creatively. We've developed a whole coaching program around this, and it's been very successful. But what I do, and this is just one of the things that I do inside the community, is I try to stay 2 to 3 years ahead of the curve of what's going to happen and what do you need to learn before any other course creator program out there would teach you that specific thing. And that's the one thing about Jim is when I first met you, Jim, you were more than a couple years ahead of the curve with eBay originally. And that's my job, is to just stay in the know as to what is going on with Amazon and these marketplaces.
Absolutely. Awesome. And I guess I should have introduced myself too. I just kind of jumped in. But yeah, I'll go next so everybody knows why I'm the one that's kind of, I guess, moderating this for now. But so I've been on the Amazon marketplace since December 2015. I've been within the My Silent Team community since that time. We jumped in right out the gate with coaching, and we've grown our business to over $1 million per year, selling and doing arbitrage mainly, while also doing wholesale bundles, some private label, etc. But mainly it's been arbitrage. And so this issue of the GTIN exemptions or GTIN issues has obviously affected our business and a lot of other people that we've trained through the Replens course that we've done over the last few years. So, I'm excited to hear from everybody on this panel too, from a bundling perspective, whether it's branded or non-branded bundles, for arbitrage, wholesale, and kind of a future outlook. And so, yeah, that's a little bit more about me. Leanna, I'll let you go next.
Thanks, Jimmy. I'm Leanna Crocco. I have been selling I should say my husband and I have had a wholesale B2B business for almost 40 years now. So we've been in business self-employed for that long. And he just has allowed me to flourish in my own little entrepreneurship. And so I was a health coach for almost 20 years, but then I started in 2015 helping somebody learn Amazon as I learned it. So now I just haven't looked back, walked away from my coaching, and I found my home. 2015, I don't even remember what year I jumped into Jim Cockrum coaching, and I was coached and then got into Legends, and I'm 95% bundles. So I have been do bundles since 2016 and haven't looked back. So there's my story.
Awesome. Kate, I'll have you go next, and then we'll round it out with Jim at the end.
All right. So I have the same story as Jimmy and Leanna. So let's just skip to the end. I started out as a RA type seller, retail arbitrage and online arbitrage. Same time they did, followed a very similar path to them. And when I learned Replens was January 2017, and I jumped in both feet. right? I became an expert in embracing the finding of the unfindable listings and using the unused listings and just bringing them back to life. And so replens became 95% of my business. And it is not just a side hustle for us. It's our full-time income. It's my husband came home from his job and joined us 5 years ago, and we haven't looked back. Replens has been our bread and butter. It's put food on the kids food on the kids, definitely. Food on the table for all 7 children in our household. And so this is a big deal for me. The GTIN mismatch issue is something that I look forward to addressing with everyone that is also affected, because I know that we can work through this together.
All right. It's an honor to be here, guys. You can hear me all right, Jimmy? I had done a mic check, actually. Good. All right. Yeah, I get to work with crazy, smart, creative people like the ones on this panel. And there's about 100 people total on the team that contribute in one way or another around here. Content creators, administrators, moderators, coaches. Nathan, like I said, he said it earlier on, he's the guy that's probably been around the longest working with me, coming up on, I've been putting food on my kids, Kate, for 22 years with the internet. So I was looking at my eBay account this morning. We listed about $5,000 worth of stuff today on eBay. That account was set up in 1999. So I can say I've been doing e-commerce since the 90s. There's a few of us out there. But yeah, that's what I do, using the internet creatively to launch multiple income streams and teaching other people how to do it. That's what we do around here. But I'm eager to get into the GTIN issue. And I have a feeling, and I know you've got some content prepared. I'm just going to make a quick observation. I've talked to a lot of people about this issue. We got everything from, we got like a bell curve of people being affected. We've got maybe Kate over here who's saying it's been a significant impact. And then we've got some other people over here, like on my business, we've got 800, maybe 1,000, somewhere around there. Replens, we've had 2 of them affected of our entire catalog. So we're going to see a gamut of experiences here based on kind of how you find your replens and what strategies you've been using. So there's going to be a wide gamut of experiences here today, but I'm eager to jump in and contribute where I can. Thanks for allowing me to be a part of the panel today.
Awesome. Yeah, it is pretty crazy to see who gets affected the most versus who doesn't. And I think that there's a rhyme and a reason to it. And so obviously that's part of the panel today. But before we kind of get into some of the presentations of even how to figure out where to find these things in your account, because some people might not even know what we're talking about. And I saw this question in one of the groups whenever I announced this, which is, what is a GTIN? And so I'll just quickly explain that. And then we've got something that Kate wanted to talk about. And from there, we'll get into some of the presentation and the panel stuff. But a GTIN is just essentially a global trade item number, which is a UPC or an EAN. That's what I can boil it down to. It's what is on a particular product from a UPC standpoint. If you can even see it, it's just be the barcode on the back of any product. But it's not just what's on the product. It is also what is shown as the UPC or the EAN in the actual listing. So many different listings are created either with a GTIN exemption. They got an exemption from Amazon, and so they didn't need to put in a UPC. Or they had maybe purchased a UPC from a different non-GS1 organized UPC barcode. So they could have purchased it from eBay or other companies that do this on the side. And so this has actually been something that was strategy taught whenever I first started, that you could buy barcodes from anywhere, put it up there, and it's your barcode in your particular product. And I think that is what Amazon is currently cleaning up. So it used to be allowed, and then it changed to not being allowed, and now they're actually cleaning it up. So that is what a GTIN is. And I'm sure there's more details and depth to it, but from the most basic level, that's what it is. Did anybody else have anything on that I missed that they'd like to talk about? Or are we good to move on? Good. Okay. All right, Kate, I know that you had something that you wanted to talk about before we get into some of the presentation and before we get to the panel discussion. So,
right. So what I have kind of put together came together over the last few weeks of discussions with my prep team, discussions with my husband, right? So we have known about the GTIN mismatch issue for years. Leanna warned people early on. A few years ago, I did not understand a lot of what she was trying to warn us about at the time because of the way things were being done at that time. And so as the time has approached, and I've seen certain listings be taken down throughout this year because of a GTIN mismatch, I became more and more aware and more educated as to what is going on and why. And so I knew what was coming. And then my account showed up with over 200 ASINs in it that said all of these have a GTIN mismatch and they will be coming down mid to late October. And then another whole bunch were added like a week later. And, so that for me was a shaking, right? And I know a lot of you know what has happened and we're paying attention to this as well. So you've kind of been prepped for this. And I'm speaking to those of you and those of you who are just finding out and realizing that this may affect your business. This would be for you as well. So along this couple of weeks or last few weeks of journey, there have been moments where I have stood there and thought, like Paul, I am reminded that I know what it is to be abased and I know what it is to abound. And that applying to our financial situation, our business situation, my personal life, yes. So I had those moments where I stood there and said, it will be okay, Kate. You know that if your business takes a hit, you will be able to keep working on things and bring it back and add more ASINs to your list of things that you're selling, and it will be all right. But it's going to take some time and some work. And I do that as I look at the list and I say, oh my word, to my husband, top 10 or top 20 of my listings, 10 of those are going. You know what 20% of your business does. The 80-20 rule, that's in effect in my business. And so for the top 20 ASINs to have 10 of them going down, that's something that really works on you to say, okay, let's see, what am I going to do? How am I going to respond? And then I've also had those moments where I said, like Peter, after Jesus was crucified, everything looks bleak. I go a-fishing. I'm not going to pay attention to this at all. And I am going to go list things on eBay. And I am going to go source fun things for me that bring me joy. And I'm going a-fishing. And there is that calling back to dealing with the issue. And I will be doing that. And I have done that and faced it again and again. But there are those moments where my whole attitude has been, I go a-fishing. Along with that, I noticed someone's comment, and her name is Sue. She commented in one of the groups, I hope that this webinar will not be just a Pollyanna speech to, throw out fluffy encouragements, right? And that was interesting to me because Pollyanna, not the Disney version, the BBC version, is one of my favorite movies. It resonates with me on so many levels, not as a children's movie, but there is a scene in that movie where Pollyanna is lying in bed after being hit by a car, and she has lost the ability to walk, but she doesn't know that. And she overhears her aunt say that she will never walk again. And she says, I want to know what you said. You said I'm never going to walk again. And everything from here looks bleak and dire. And her aunt says to her in her place of vexation, oh, Pollyanna, I promise everything will be better in the morning. And Pollyanna, at this moment in the story, Pollyanna is always like looking up and seeing the bright things and looking for joy. And she throws her toy and says, it is the morning. And she is in that place of complete distress. And yet, she turns this thing around and she begins to fight for her ability to walk, and is eventually able to walk again at the end of the book. And that is where I feel that I have experienced some of this in these past, it's probably been a month and a half or so of looking at this situation and trying to figure out what we are going to do and how we are going to do it. So I'm standing in the doorway of our prep area, i.e. the garage. And I'm talking to my prep people because they're adults in my household and quite different from my children that surround me throughout the day. It is a reprieve to go and speak to them and share my heart. And they were talking to me about, not being able to use this ASIN, not being able to use that ASIN, and what were we going to do? And I began to rattle off just spontaneously all these things that we've gone through as a seller since 2015 until now. And I thought, you know what, later I should write that down and share it with all of you. So far, our business has survived the great toy category cleanup, where thousands and thousands of toy listings were pulled down because they needed documentation for children protection certificates. And we had a lot of replens that were toys. But what did we do? We had to move away from those and move on to other things that we were also doing in our business and just strengthen those areas and replacing the toy category replens that we had. Then there was also the loss of supplement listings and the impending threat and doom of requiring documents on all of those listings as well. And we also had a good amount of supplement replens in our business. And at that point, they started pulling down our listings before the date that they said they were going to pull them down. And so we said, all right, we are going to strengthen other areas of our business and allow these to rest, since Amazon is threatening to pull all of this down as well, and has already taken down a whole bunch of the ones that we were selling. Okay, then we have also gone through the gating of categories and brands and navigating all of those. You can't sell this, or you used to sell this, but now you can't sell it anymore. And you must get yourself back into this niche again if you really want to continue selling. We've been through the cleaning supplies and personal care minefields of COVID, where a large amount of replens, again, were in the cleaning supplies and personal care departments, where they said, we're looking for gougers. We're pulling listings down. You can't sell this, that, and the other thing. I had one of my favorite replens in that category that went down repeatedly and was brought back up, down, and I didn't know which way was up or down. We have been through the advent of IP claims, counterfeit claims, FedEx letters from lawyers, and we have weathered many of those in our business since whenever that was, like 4 or 5 years ago, when all of that started to happen. And we have just carried on. The high pricing error jail time, we have gone through that, and our replens have gone into that situation as well. Had one just this last month where it was gracious, it was annoying. And yet we carry on and we continue to find solutions and continue to find more listings to sell. So I've been through an account suspension in my, 7 or 8 years of selling now. And boy, do I not wish that on anyone. The hazmat storage space lockdown, we have gone through that and are experiencing that one currently. They've also denied my request to be put back where I was before. And so now I am limited to space of about 2 weeks of supply for the hazmat ASINs that we sell. So we were like, wait, we do not have room for this where we are. We need to build another storage shed outside. That's what it boils down to. But we will continue to work on this and to find solutions that work for our business, even with the storage space lockdown. And then we've gone through sourcing apps failing during Q4 retail arbitrage frenzy. And if you know what kind of a seller I have been, I have loved retail arbitrage through Q4. And so to have an app that was not working was debilitating at times. Again, we found a solution for that. We shopped at 5 in the morning and nobody else was out shopping then. So the apps worked great. 2020, we went through the loss of employees. When everyone chose to shelter at home, that meant you didn't have a prep team anymore. And I was going through the throes of morning sickness and had to step it up. And then 2020, only essential items can be shipped into the warehouses. I just received a $5,000 order that's taking up a large amount of space in my basement that I can no longer send in. And I have more thousands of dollars of inventory on their way to me, and I can no longer send it to the warehouse. So we had to figure out how to streamline merchant fulfilling and do our best, morning sickness or no, to become even more efficient in our in and out production of inventory. And then we are all still going through this one, the 2020 to 2022 supply chain issues, products disappearing or discontinued, just like that. Boop. You made your listing, you've got it together, you send it in, you go back to get some more, and the product no longer exists. So we have experienced that and continue to work our way through all of these different solutions. So no, this isn't a Pollyanna fluff talk. This is tough. This is something that affects lots of us in ways that we have not figured out how to solve yet. And yet we are going to carry on. We're going to continue to work on our businesses, add more ASINs, and find solutions. So that is what I shared with my prep team.
That's awesome. One thing that I love, Kate, I mean, it's difficult, obviously, that there's so many different changes that happen in really any business, but specifically with Amazon that we're talking about right now. But all the things that you mentioned, a lot of people would have quit on any one of those. And so to hear the things that you've worked through, obviously, a lot of sellers that have been around for a long time have worked through the same things. That's what ultimately leads to being more successful, right? To growing your business and changing and really becoming more diverse in the ways that we source, the things that we sell. Having a much more stable business is just having the determination to say, hey, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep pushing forward and see how I can pivot. And so, yeah, I loved that you had so many different things. I think if I were to have looked back, I probably would have picked out 5 major things, but all those little ones that you talked about, those are they're difficult, right? And they aren't little ones. You just kind of forget about them over time, and they're big at the time. So it's, yeah, I love that you shared that. So thank you for doing that.
And for some perspective, I'm the old man in the room, maybe follow the close second with Nate. This is the reality you've signed up for when you become an e-commerce business building warrior. If the sky isn't falling every 4 to 6 months over something, it will soon. But the thing after the sky has fallen and your world has ended 48 times, and it's okay on the other side of it, all 48 times, you kind of start to build this, it's not that it doesn't hit you anymore. It just doesn't hurt as bad because there's going to be creative solutions that float. And Nathan, how many times have you and I had conversations and said, okay, here's the challenge. It's not about coming up with one solution. The challenge is coming up with 10 viable solutions. And we always do, not the two of us, but this community. And we continue to see success stories. We continue to see resilient people like Kate push through, come up with creative ideas. We are very transparent. We talk through it. We work through it. And suddenly it's behind us and it's 6 months old. And it's something we all kind of laugh about. And, so I just want to keep that perspective that this too shall pass. I promise. All the big trends are in our favor. E-commerce is exploding. We have a special skill set that allows us to diversify. And there's many replin sellers that are almost virtually untouched by this issue. Again, depending on what your sourcing strategies have been. So we will get through this. We will get past it. But yeah, if you want an easy sailing, smooth ride to the top, this is the wrong business. And I would even say this: owning a business is the wrong choice for you if that's what you want. You need to find a good job with a stable employer, which good luck with that these days, right? So this is the journey we've signed up for. I guarantee you a year from now, there will be 2 or 3 other like, oh my gosh, what just happened? That changes the rules a little bit. Those things are coming. But that's why we're a multiple income stream community. That's why we talk about multiple streams of income, using the internet creatively, always expanding, relying on multiple platforms. And so there's always ways to grow, expand, and get around these things. But Kate, I'm very encouraged by that. Thank you for being transparent. And, and I'll end with this. Imagine all your business being on one platform and you wake up one morning and that platform doesn't exist. It's just gone. And what chat forums are available, everyone's saying the same thing. Is it gone? Is it gone forever? Have they closed? Will I get my money? That's never happened with Amazon, but with eBay sellers who've been around long enough, that happened to us plenty of times. I mean, that was the reality of early e-commerce. So you get a thick skin after a while. You realize, okay, the platform hasn't vanished for 48 hours with no explanation whatsoever. That's never happened, right? So it's going to be okay. And if I can be the voice of reason and experience, 20 years and dog years, I've been doing this about 140 years of e-commerce, right? So it's going to be okay. I guarantee you that. There are creative solutions for anything that's happening right now, including the issues we're addressing today and the ones we're not.
Well, Jim, one thing to touch on what you're saying, and we're going to go through a presentation, but at the end of this, I'm going to give you the solution. I've already figured out the creative solutions. And here's the thing is, oh, this is bad. But you know what I'm doing? I'm hunting ASINs that got purged, right? There's a lot of ASINs getting purged and the demand's still there. The product's not, the listing's not. And once I find what was purged, I'm going to go after it and I'm going to build that listing properly and I'm going to lock down and be the one to do it and reap the rewards on that. So one door closes, another one opens. This actually opens up opportunities. And
opposition,
we're going to go off on this for you today. This
opposition is always opportunity. Every time.
Boom.
Opposition is opportunity.
Absolutely. Awesome. And before I go to the presentation part, I just wanted to pop up some comments. The people love, a lot of people loved what you shared, Kate. So everybody thanking you for it. Somebody here, I often have these thoughts that I was the only one navigating these issues. I'm not alone. I'm not giving up. I'm working through one step at a time. That's awesome. It's a mindset that we need to have. So yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to get into this, and then we'll work on some solutions after I go through the basic presentation. So I'm going to pull this up. I'll go through it. Basically, what I've got from a presentation standpoint is the step-by-step for how to find these issues in your account if you don't know how, and then also how to look up specific UPCs on the GS1 website, which is what Amazon is connected to and makes their determinations based off of whenever it comes to what is allowable on the platform from a UPC standpoint. So let me go ahead and put that thing up there. All right. So finding the GTIN issues in your seller account, I'm going to give you the steps, and I'm going to also go through the screenshots that I have for how to do this as well. So first and foremost, it's pretty obvious, sign into your Seller Central account. After that, click on Manage All Inventory. Click on Search, Suppressed, and Inactive Listings, which again, I've got pictures for where that'll be once you're logged in and doing this. And then at the bottom of that page that opens after clicking on Search, Suppressed, and Inactive, you will see At-Risk Listings. And then you can click Invalid Information to see all of the GTIN issues, or even some other ones if there's ever anything else that would be in there for your account. Anything that shows the issues are for ACE and GTIN codes are what you're looking for. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. So these are the actual screenshots. Whenever you're clicking Manage All Inventory, it's Inventory, Manage All Inventory, and then Search, Suppressed, and Inactive Listings is up at the top underneath the banner of your bookmarks. And then after that, the page that opens, you've got the invalid information there down at the bottom underneath the at-risk listings. So very simple to do to find these. And then this is what they'll look like. They'll have due dates. They'll tell you, hey, this ASIN has GTIN codes that do not match the brand associated to the ASIN. And so it's the same exact message with different due dates. You can either choose to conquer them, I guess, from the earliest on, or you can just try to go through them in whatever way that you decide. Hopefully you've got fewer than a ton of them. But ultimately, it is something that most sellers, especially if you're doing replens, arbitrage, you're going to have to deal with. And it doesn't just affect arbitrage sellers. This affects private label and wholesale sellers as well. A lot of people are having these issues. And so that's why we wanted to talk about the multitude of options after I'm done with this little presentation that you can have moving forward. And so I'm excited for that. So that's how you find that you have GTIN issues. The next thing that you can do is try to figure out, well, what's the UPC correlating to that specific ASIN that has this GTIN issue? And so the way to do that, you need the UPC from the listing. That's what matters most. As I mentioned earlier, whenever I showed these Altoids, it's got a UPC on the back of the particular tin, I guess, but that's not what is always showing on the listing. And so you can find the UPC using RevSeller or ASIN or some other, sometimes Google Chrome extensions, multiple extensions might have different UPCs to pull that from. And I'll show you an example in a second of what it looks like on RevSeller. You can also find it under the product details on the listing. The next place to find it is under the Keepa graph that would pull up from a Chrome extension. You can click on the data tab and find UPCs. If there are any, by the way, that's the hard part. If it has a GTIN exemption, sometimes there won't be anything. Or if it's a really old listing, sometimes for whatever reason, there might not be anything even without the exemption. And so that's something to keep in mind. We aren't always going to find a UPC code or a GTIN, but this is the place to look for those things. And then if you have it in your inventory already, which you should, if you're looking at your existing listings, you can click edit to see the back end of that listing, and you can get any UPC or EAN that was entered in the back end of that listing. That requires a couple extra steps. You can't do this if you're sourcing because you don't have it in your inventory unless you added it to your inventory and went into the back end to look for it. But ultimately, the first three options here, RevSeller, ASIN, product details, or Keepa, all of those should be the places that you can check to see if there is a UPC or an EAN. And if I miss anything, panel, please let me know. We can get to that in a second because I'm sure there's other things maybe I had missed up front, but just let me know. So this is what it looks like on RevSeller, and this is me using Altoids as an example. This is the UPC that shows on RevSeller. With the product details. So if you scroll down midway through an Amazon listing page, there's a product details section. It has UPC here, and there's actually 3 different UPCs, which is interesting to me for this Altoids product in particular. And then on Keepa, this is where you would find the EAN or the UPC. Now, as you can see up at the top, I said the EAN is the same as the UPC with an extra 0 in the front. So these numbers are the same. There's just an extra 0 attached to it in the front. So depending on how the listing was set up, it may have one or the other. It might show both. And it's odd to me that there's 3 different UPCs tagged to this. So I'm not a listing expert. So if Nathan or Leanna know, I'm interested to know if they've got a reason why, but I'll keep moving forward first. So now I'm going to show you with that information how we search the GS1 database. I'm going to give you the steps as I did before, and then I'll show you the screenshots after. So GS1 database.
Variations on that.
Sorry? Oh, variations.
The reason why there's multiple UPCs is there's variations.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Each variation requires its own UPC.
And then in addition to that, there used to be fields in listing creation where you could put additional UPCs that this item matched to. So I could go in and put in 10. I could put in the one that I wanted that I purchased, and then I could link it up to all of the ones that were on the products in my bundles too. So that could be another reason why there were multiple UPCs that show up in a report.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So searching the GS1 database, the steps, the first one, you can just Google GS1 UPC lookup to find the link, or here is the link to do that. If you just want to type that in, that's fine as well. That's where I go to look for this. Scroll to the bottom of that page, and then you're going to click on GTIN as the option to search for, and then put in the UPC code or EAN, whatever you have. And then from there, you can click on search. The company name should match the listing brand. Sometimes maybe it can match a manufacturer. I've seen manufacturers and brands be different, and sometimes the listing's okay if the manufacturer matches, whereas if the brand doesn't, I don't know why. It's not 100% consistent, but that's just what I've seen sometimes. But it should match the listing brand is what Amazon would want it to be as. Now, for this particular product, this is what it looks like when you go to that link for the GS1 company database. And then if you scroll down, you're going to click on GTIN. And then from there, you're going to put in the UPC or the EAN, click search. And then for this particular product, for this Altoids product, it actually pulls up as Mars Inc. And I tried all 3 of the UPCs. They came up as different things than Altoids. So I thought that was a little odd. I don't know what's going to happen with this particular product because Amazon's actually the main seller on this listing. So I don't know if they're okay with Mars, which owns Altoids, or what the outcome is going to be. But like I said, the product was Altoids branded. GS1 came back as Mars, who owns Altoids. So Amazon's all over this listing, so it may stay up anyway because maybe Amazon set it up that way on purpose. Ultimately, we've seen these mismatches get taken down because Amazon doesn't see an exact match. So this kind of a thing is, in my opinion, still up in the air. Maybe there's been some more consistent things happening whenever Amazon is the one that potentially created the listing and they did it this way for a reason. But I have seen mismatches where a parent company owns the brand. That brand is the one that's shown on the listing, but it's still getting taken down because Amazon doesn't see it connecting on the back end with GS1. So in that case, I think I put this as a bullet point. Maybe. No, I didn't. In that case, you could potentially open a case and try to work with Amazon to prove that, hey, my parent company brand owns this brand. And so that's why it's set up this way. But you never know with Amazon support how those things are going to end up shaking out at the end. But those are the basic steps of how to find the GTIN issues in your account and then how to search them on the GS1 database. Obviously, we just got 77 new comments as I went through that. So I'm going to have to scroll through and look for some questions here at the end. But does anybody on the panel have anything to add to that currently? Because I'd love to hear your thoughts on it before we get.
The solution is brand registry, the brand registry there. If Amazon can see the GS1 database over here, and they also are connected to the US Patent and Trademark Office site, and they can see that Mars Inc. is the actual owner of that brand, right? And it's the same thing, and that matches up as well. That's another thing that they use to identify if this is a legit. And what you're doing is you're bolting down, you're stamping to the brand properly, and you can have this company over here own this brand name, and that's what Amazon will identify to match up in the GS1 to show that is that company prefix that owns that brand. So company prefix can own multiple brands.
So do you recommend then going to the test system website, pulling that trademark up, taking a screenshot that shows Mars and Altoids on the same page, and submitting that in your case if that listing were put on the list? That would be what I would do first.
Absolutely. The evidence, it's like dealing with Amazon. You have to be like you're an attorney. Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C, except for you have to explain it to them in a way like you're explaining something to your 8-year-old, right? Don't be too complex. Just keep it simple. Just like an attorney. Exhibit A, something Scott Margolius taught me that, man, if you approach it like that and you have evidence, good, clear evidence, you're more than likely win those cases after the 5th time you submit it.
Yeah, maybe 6 or 7 different times, but yeah. So
can I ask Jimmy, on the Altoid listing, does it show that it was listed as a brand Altoid, or was it actually brand registered listing? There is a difference, and needed to recognize the difference. So if that listing isn't under a brand registered listing, then it wasn't in brand registry. But if it has it, so Mars might be in the brand registry, but Altoid brand isn't. You got to look at the listing and know the difference between the brand field and if it's brand registered or not.
Okay. I'm pretty sure Altoids was brand registered because it was under that brand specifically, and Amazon was the one on the listing.
Yeah, but a lot of times it says the brand, but it doesn't mean it's brand registered.
Yeah.
As Altoid brand store or Altoid store, you have to know the difference between brand registry. And just because it says Altoid, so many people, I'm telling you, so many say, well, it's branded because it says Altoid. Said it's not in brand registry. Yes, it's a brand, but it's not a brand registered brand because it's not in a store. There's a difference.
Yeah, right. And so this one particular, visit the Altoids store right there. And since Amazon is the one FBA offer,
So click on that, and
well, I can't now.
okay, yeah, but when you click on that,
Yeah,
it will show up as Mars.
right.
Maybe that's just
Okay.
diving into knowing a listing, just those steps to look at when you want to sell on it.
To follow up, if I've been doing that, clicking on those, visit the whatever store, visit that they put on the website, and a lot of times you end up not inside a store. You just end up in a list of products that kind of matches that. Maybe it might be something very, very different that's in there. It's more like a search results page than it is anything else. So is that what you're saying? That
No, that means it's probably, if it has a store in the brand, it is brand registered. They just haven't built a storefront in brand registry.
Or they got brand register 1.0, which was way
Yes.
back in the day, that didn't even require a trademark to get brand registry, and they haven't updated it to brand registry 2.0.
2.0, correct.
The new platform.
Okay, perfect. So I guess we can move on to the next thing then, since we talked about the lookups and the example here. Let's do the panel discussion. First and foremost, let's start with sourcing from an arbitrage perspective, and then we'll go into the opportunities that this issue actually creates from a bundle standpoint. So sourcing from an arbitrage or even wholesale moving forward. Kate, is there anything that you want to start off with that you recommend that you've been doing lately? Is it kind of, hey, let's keep sourcing traditionally and hope for the best? Have you been doing some of the things where your listing is merchant fulfilled and seeing if it comes back after 48 hours? What are some of the tips that you have for that?
Okay, as far as a brand new something, putting something brand new on there, listing it and waiting the 48 hours as a merchant fulfilled item could be a really good way to find out if it's currently in danger. A lot of us are seeing currently everything is mid-October, late October. There's not a whole lot of people showing up with November dates yet, although I do have some. And some people have said, okay, all of my dates just got changed and I have a few extra months. I'd be glad to be in that spot, but mine have not done anything of that nature. So that would be one way to find out if it is currently on the list, but we don't know. This is the part that's kind of screwy. We don't know if Amazon's going to come out tomorrow with 5,000 new hits, right? Looking at my inventory, I have okay, so one thing I've done is take that GS1 mismatch listing page in that Jimmy just showed you how to find, and I have exported the whole list. I have put that whole set of ASINs into Keepa and downloaded it as an Excel sheet, but I've also looked at it directly into the Keepa report and just put the brand field next to the UPC field and gone through each one and said, what is the brand field on these listings that are in trouble and what is in the UPC code? And let's see what we can find for how to tell if I'm going to have this problem with more brands. So far, most of my listings are have brands in the brand field that are common, well-known brands. They are not Judy's toenail clippers in the brand field. Okay, they are regular brands in the brand field, main coffee listing brands, etc. So that's one thing that I've seen. It's like Amazon has started with things that are already in the brand registry and they're working through those. But I look at my current listings that have not been flagged, and I have so many that match exactly the same setup as what is on my Keepa reports. So I am not sure if Amazon is going to, come through again next week and there's going to be a whole new set of listings on the list, or if they've figured, wait a minute, we're doing too much too fast. Let's hold off and try to see if we can figure out solutions for this before we do any more cleanup. All right. So as far as sourcing, arbitrage, and wholesale, I buy from distributors as well as regular retail stores. So that has not made a difference in whether the listing is touched or not touched. I reached out to someone who's big into 100% wholesale, and they said the main things that they're experiencing trouble with are the multi-packs and bundles listings that they sell. So of course, Nathan and Leanna know solutions for that, and we're all implementing those things just as fast as our little train can go. But the thought with this is that I am looking at listings and checking the brand field and checking to see what's in the UPC field. And if the UPC field matches the brand field, then I feel safe with adding that new product to my list of replens or whatever I'm doing for online arbitrage or retail arbitrage. So that is the starting place that I am taking with deer. We need to be a little more judicious in our selection and making it work going forward with not knowing what's going to happen next. So that's my first step with that. And yes, I know that takes a little bit of extra effort, but if I'm out in the store and I'm scanning, I simply click on the listing and head on through to the Amazon site and look at the Amazon app to see what's listed as the brand on this. And typically that'll show up somewhere on the screen and you can make your little, oh, it'll be okay moment there. And in addition to that, I am being super careful with the multi-packs and the bundle listings that I'm finding and checking the ones in my account currently, which doesn't mean that all of them are bad. Okay. So the way that Jimmy said to check your UPCs, I am taking those UPCs, plugging them into the GS1 site and saying, on this listing, before I send it in again, is it okay compared to what the GS1 site says? And I have been pleasantly surprised with some of my, some of the ones that I send a lot of inventory in on have been tied to the brand correctly. So that has been a real pleasant thank you moment. And we just are plugging those UPCs from the listing right into the GS1 site and then feeling much more comfortable about sending those in right now too. So that's basically what we're up to.
Perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. And Jim, I was curious, since you said that you've seen in your listings, you said you have between 800 to 1,000 ASINs, but you've seen it affect 2. Is that what you had said earlier?
I asked my team, my mom and aunt run my replens business for me. So I just wanted to confirm. I said, how many of our listings have been affected by this? Have you guys looked into it? Yes, they have. Now we do most of our sourcing and we have only seen 2 so far affected. The primary way we're finding our replens right now is by contacting distributors, manufacturers, getting their product lists, and then going through and mostly singles. We're not doing a lot of bundles. We don't have a lot of ugly listings that someone set up a couple of years ago and didn't do it the right way, and we sell on those. We're not doing a lot of those. We're doing a lot of singles off of pretty clean lists, and apparently so far, it doesn't mean they aren't in there. We haven't combed through and looked for UPC matches versus brands. We haven't specifically gone that far yet. Just looking at the flags that have been raised, it's had virtually little impact on our business. So, who knows? But my instinct is, I've seen this pattern with Amazon many, many times. Remember, Nate, what was it? And you guys will remember this. All of us probably will. Was it about 5 years ago, right before Christmas, right before Q4, about this time of year? They said no new sellers.
Yeah.
Will we be allowed to ever let new sellers on ever again? No answer. Will you be shutting down some of the new sellers who are currently suspended? Or are they gone forever? No answer. For about 6 weeks, we had no idea if Amazon had said, hey, no new sellers ever. Well, they realized they'd overreacted and they got back to pretty normal. Right now, they're trying to clean up their catalog a little bit. I think they're going to figure out pretty fast, hey, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. Think about this from Amazon's vantage point, guys. They've probably given up, $1 billion worth of revenue by shutting down all these listings that were selling really, really well for them a few weeks ago. they're going to come back. And like Nate said, they're going to come back with the right barcodes on them and UPCs and brands. The people who win that game are going to win big because the demand is still there. So yes, it's a blip on my radar here on our business, on the replens portion of my business, but we've seen very little impact so far.
Okay.
Because you're not doing too many bundles of multi-packs.
We're not doing multi-packs.
Yeah.
We don't do bundles, a whole lot of bundles.
Multi-packs in my book is a bundle, but that's me.
Yeah, both same,
They're-
both in the same, right?
They're getting SKUs though directly from wholesale sources,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So that it's a little bit different in that arena. But
We're getting pretty
Jim,
clean
you know,
SKUs.
let's go deeper on Amazon. They're the largest company in the world, right? They have more broken systems than any company in the world. But think about the root cause of this. Why is this happening? What do you guys think? Why do you think this is happening?
Because it's a worldwide company and they're trying to streamline
Lawyers.
everything together.
Mhm. Well, yeah, and
Fix
with
their catalog.
Lawyers drive the world. man.
lawyers, yeah.
Well, I think Amazon, they like you third-party sellers out there. They like you, okay. You're only 60% of their business, but they love brands. Oh, do they love brands? And that elevates your level of trust because they know that you're going to build the listing properly. But hey, over here on this listing, gosh, I've got 50 people trying to sell fish sauce, right? Well, gosh, why don't I just create a listing off of a UPC I got on eBay and just one single pack of fish sauce? You see the duplicate listings that happen and the wrong listings. And then not only that, brands cannot protect themselves if they're the UPC, the GTIN, is a form of intellectual property attached to a product, right? It establishes first in use in interstate commerce, which is very important to Amazon and trademark stuff, right? So they are trying to clean up their catalog, but what they're doing is they're setting it a certain way. So moving forward, so that the sellers that they don't trust, right, can't build crap listings that are going to cause problems with the catalog, right? Mm-hmm. So they want us to build the listings properly moving forward. And that's why they've locked it down to where when you create a listing, you only use a GS1 UPC barcode. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But think about this. Why is this happening? It's not because they're trying to shut down the little guy. They're trying to kill the little guys. No, they're trying to put the most trustworthy listings in front of their customers. They're not your customers. They're Amazon's customers. So I think that's why it's happening. But what else have you guys got that you think is there and why this is happening?
I've got my experience is a little different because I can create new listings with GTIN exemption under a brand. So it doesn't have to be GS1. You can get GTIN exempt as a brand. I can do it with my brand registry and I can do it with a non-registered brand. So I don't want it's GS1 is protecting that if you go off of to match their catalog, and if you go off and build a brand off Amazon, yes, you need GS1s, you need UPC codes. So I don't want to, for my audience, to say they all have to go get a GS1 to create a listing. You can create a listing under GTIN exemption and do it with generic.
But what I would recommend, well, generic, what happens is they're going to push you down to page 20. Totally. And generic has some, if you work at a generic GTIN exempt listing, you can get it ranked eventually. But here's the problem with that. Let's say that this is a listing that I've created that is a bundle that's my product, and I go GTIN exempt on it. Well, somebody that's a drop shipper out there is going to go, I'm going to put that on Walmart, but I'm going to use my own UPC on Walmart. When I list something, I'll list it GTIN to test it. And if that test works, I'll delete and close the listing and then use a UPC and rebuild the listing and bolt down to it. But I don't want some drop shipper putting a different identifier on my listing or my product on Walmart or other places, because when someone scans my barcode, I want it to show up Amazon, Walmart. I want it to all match all the way across the board.
Right. I do it under my brand, but I do it different is I don't do just a branded product. I do my own stuff with it. I make it unique. So they can't sell what I sell on Walmart. You
Oh,
can't.
no, they can sell your listing. They can mark up and drop ship your listing on Amazon and mark it up $10. The customer buys it on Walmart, then they go and buy it on your Amazon and send to their customer. So it's a problem for me when they use a different UPC on Walmart and I'm trying to get everything across multiple channels. I want that same UPC identifier to match. I try to get away from the GTIN exemption as quick as possible if it's a branded bundle where I'm adding my own unique product to it, because you know, the GTIN exemption is a good way to get something up there quickly, not waste a barcode, because they're getting more expensive now, right?
They are.
But on my end, I you know, if I'm going to bolt down to that listing long term, I'm going to attach a UPC to it from the GS1 as quickly as possible.
Exactly. And
Although,
that's what I said.
how do you do that with a 3-pack of something where you're not adding a UPC identifier to it? See, here's the thing: is people are like, oh wow, you know, this 3-pack of Sweet Baby Rays that I'm going to make, right? But it's not going to be a branded bundle. This is where you're going to get in trouble by doing a GTIN exemption for Sweet Baby Rays, putting a 3-pack up, and now there's no UPC identifier to match to that product. Amazon's going to purge your listing. You're going to go buy a bunch of inventory, send it in, and they're going to say, hey, we're tearing down this listing in 30 days. You got 30 days to do a removal order. Which is expensive.
That's why a lot of the multi-packs are being hit. Exactly for that reason.
So what I'm doing is I'm adding a unique relevant item to the listing to fix that. That's the way forward. We'll talk more about that, but go ahead, Jimmy. We've got more presentation to get through.
Well, yeah. So there are just a couple of things so a lot of what Kate was talking about, that's the same things that we're doing in terms of a sourcing standpoint. But I know that I've gotten this question. Does this mean reverse sourcing is dead, right? Does this mean replens are dead, right? And so I want to address it because I feel like if I don't, people obviously still have that question. So to me, replens, first and foremost, are just replenishable products. So that doesn't mean that in and of itself, the actual model of building a base of things that you can buy full price at a store, sell them on Amazon, that particular model, that will be around for a long time, in my view. It's just replenishable products. That's what every store that exists today is existing on replens in their own store, right? Now, from a reverse sourcing standpoint, it just changes. It adds a couple extra steps. As Kate had mentioned, you can still reverse source. You can still try to find listings without using a particular UPC code, but you want to make sure that whatever the UPC is in that listing matches to the brand, as Kate had outlined and as I kind of showed a little bit earlier. And so that's my viewpoint on it. Kate, did you have anything else to add on that from your perspective?
So there's one more thing. Amazon is giving us about 30 days. If something's in the warehouse and you get notified, you get about 30 days to deal with it, right? And I mean, for me, I don't send more than a month or two of inventory. Now it's Q4. I try to send a whole bunch more inventory for Q4, but normally we're not sending more than about a month's worth of inventory to the warehouse. So that's where I would kind of guide people to go. If you're sending new stuff in, you're not sure if this is going to get hit, it looks good, but you're not sure, then send in 30 days of inventory. Or if you want to be on the really daring side, you know, I'm going to keep selling on this listing till Amazon brings it down. Send in only 30 days worth of inventory, or be more careful with the amount that you're going to send in, and then deal with it quickly. If you see that listing come up on the list, sell through, decide what you're going to do, make other listings, however you're going to proceed forward. But yeah, those are a couple of things that we're kind of doing.
Do you find, Nate, you could add to this too, but Kate, on these, the multi-packs and all that, I think a lot of them, it falls on to how the listing was created and creating the listing correctly. And as a sourcing, I try to teach is to look and be able to look at the parts of the ASIN and be knowledgeable what is making that error besides just UPC. You got a title, you got a listing that is done incorrectly that you're going to possibly get an IP claim too. I get those a lot. I just got an IP claim on this, and this is one that everybody else is selling. Why did I get the IP? Well, everybody else probably got the IP claim too. It's because the listing was incorrectly created, not just with the UPC, but also in the title, etc. Do you find that too, Nate, that a lot of it is the listing error on some of these?
Part of it. You know what? I got to tell you guys, there is no room for error anymore. If you're going to play in this sandbox in Amazon's world, you want to build that listing. When you build it the first time, if you're building a new listing, you want to build it like you do not have an opportunity to edit it ever again. It's final. But see, that's the thing with UPCs. If someone used the wrong UPC, their UPC they bought off of Barcodes Talk or Nationwide Barcode, or one they bought off of eBay, right? To change that UPC on that listing, it's not allowed. Amazon changed the policy recently. You cannot change a UPC unless you go through Amazon legal to do it, to prove that it is your company prefix with the GS1. You can't change a wrong UPC. But here's the key to this. I'd say stay on the listing until it gets shut off, but create another listing for it. So what I do is I go out and I'll find a winner replin, a multi-pack, a bundle, or whatever. It's not my brand. It's someone else's product, right? We're doing toothpaste, toothbrushes right now and travel stuff, right? So, I'll hop on that listing that was built wrong, but then I'll build another listing under my brand, under brand registry that will replace it. So I'll stay on both listings, right? So as this one dies, I'm taking over here, but I've got it stamped to my brand, to my UPC, and eventually I'll transition. But guess what? I'm transitioning from a listing that I'm sharing the buy box with over here, right, to one that I'm not going to have to share the buy box with over here. And that's what Amazon wants. That isn't that weird to me? That doesn't seem. It seems counterintuitive in terms of to what it is. It's creating another listing of the same listing, except for the difference is I'm finding ways to add value to the product, right? Add value into the listing, right? And there are many ways you can do that, but also I'm building the listing correctly that I know that follows Amazon's A11 algorithm, which is title, bullets, description, back-end search terms, the images, the way the images need to pop, right? Like Amazon can see that. Their AI sees that, oh, they built a listing properly. Push them up rank. I've built listings that day on tough keyword phrases where the listings ranked page 1 like that day, within hours of the listing being created, because Amazon can see that. So that's what this is forcing us to do, is if you're going to kind of do some of the things that I do that require that you get brand registry, get a trademark and a brand registry and a GS1 prefix. You go through the cost on that. To go sign up for a company prefix at the GS1, it's $250. They start you out with 10 UPCs. Now you can get 100. You can upgrade and add UPCs to the account. It's just expensive. If you only buy one UPC, after that, it's $30 for UPC. I used to pay $30 for 1,000 UPCs, but that's GS1. They're the only company that Amazon connects with now. The trademark through our company, if you're not a coaching student, you get a huge discount. If you're a coaching student, it's about $1,500. Look around. I mean, you can go to many attorneys and you'll get about a rate that's right around there. But aside from the GS1, the trademark to set up brand registry on Amazon is free, right? So are you willing to make the commitment, to make the investment, to say, okay, I'm a replin seller, right? And I'm going to sell stuff that's under other people's brands. But the new Amazon, it's not a matter of if, but when they require you to become a brand. And by doing that, would you invest $2,000 into your account, roughly, right, to elevate your trust with Amazon? I've literally talked to people that work at Amazon, the vice president of brand services, and I asked her flat out, if I get brand registry, does that elevate my trust with Amazon? And she slipped. She said, oh, yes, that definitely affects your trust index. And I went, what? Trust index? I said, so there's an index that Amazon keeps on us that is a metric that they use that they can look at that to tell whether or not they can trust us. I feel like this is the direction that Amazon's going. I feel as sellers, this is the direction we should be going. Hey, let's get the low-hanging fruit, but eventually all roads lead to becoming a brand that you can. If think about this, Jim, if we were smart about building a brand when we started on eBay, like I started in 97, you were in 99. If we started a brand back then, think about where we'd be today. We wouldn't have any of these issues, right? So it's just a transitionary thing. And I feel like you don't have to do it, right? You can still stay just a third-party seller for the rest of your life. But if you really want to protect your Amazon account and you want to do what I'm doing, where I'm reverse sourcing multi-packs. That's what I love to do. I love to find where there's one product that's selling and it's selling really well and nobody's built a 3-pack or a 5-pack and I'm the only one on that listing, right? But if I'm going to do that, or I find one that's got low competition, I'm going to hop on that listing, but I'm going to build another listing under my own brand. And the one I build under my own brand is not going to rank like that one listing, but eventually I'm going to come up on it and I'm going to take over. And because nobody can put my unique selling air freshener that I put in the product with my insert card and fridge magnet, the way that the way that I'm adding value, I own that listing. I own that listing and nobody else can hop on it and tank my price. Or if I'm brand registered and fully trademarked, they're infringing on my intellectual property. Right?
Well,
so
that's the same concept of building a bundle correctly. I mean, I'm 95% bundles with 0 at risk, and my product hits and it sells immediately when it comes available. Because it comes to the point where there's a lot that don't, and I say this to Kate, that I'm repeating myself, but they have to know what is driving the sell. We as sellers need to understand. So many think that, oh, this is just a dead listing and it's been selling so well, I'm going to jump on it, but they have no idea what is driving the sell. So I ask the question, what is driving the sell? You need to know what is driving those sells. So I take it a little farther with Kate. I did it in Legends video that you go and take all those aces that are at risk, get them into Keepa, get all your data so you have it, do the brand check, but take those aces that are your top 10 and do a reverse ASIN so you know what is driving those sales, what those keywords are and what keyword market and who your target audience is. Because just going and creating a listing, Nate and I know keywords. We could write a listing in 10 minutes, but those that don't know the listing and understand keywords and what is driving the sales is daunting to them. And then they go, well, I made a listing and I get no sales. It went away. Well, I could talk till I'm blue in the face on keywords and how to rank keywords, do all the research before, because you can't do it the Bartlett way years ago, where you make a bundle and make a listing and then do ads to find those hidden keywords and then change your listing. You can't do that anymore. You have to do the research, everything prior to creating a listing, and know who your audience is and what made that drive that sell. And I think that is daunting to a lot of these that being the ones I've been talking to with coaching them in Jim Cockrum coaching. They didn't know they had any at risk, and they thought they were making their listings and knew who their audience was. And I just think so many times because they're doing retail arbitrage, they don't know what is driving the sell. So it's easy to say, find those listings that you're selling with a multi-pack sauce. But if you don't know what's driving that sell, so many think it's just the brand. It's not always just the brand. So
let me hop in real quick, because I would think as a newer seller, maybe I'm watching this, I'm like, hey, I'm looking at this. I don't want to start creating listings. I don't want to have to do these particular things. This is way more than I signed up for. And I've got a few listings that I've just spent hours trying to learn this process. And I've sent in some products, and then 10 of them get taken down because they were set up improperly initially. So I just want to kind of reset from the standpoint of a new seller. If you're out there, this is my typical recommended path, is still to start with the arbitrage, the replens type model of finding listings, underserved ASINs, as Jim always says, and get used to using Amazon, get used to how to send in shipments, how to look for those ASINs that are underserved, see how you can start making profit, start there. But then as you start to get a good grip on what that is, and maybe you look at the OA Simplified course and you start trying to build in other systems that can help you find more ASINs that we've seen be successful for virtual assistants and a lot of sellers recently. But as you start to move through that and you get a good plan of action, then you can start to look at, okay, how do I take these listings and make non-branded bundles and test out those listings? And then from there, okay, these non-branded bundles to me are working. So I'm going to create that brand and move even deeper into what Amazon is wanting to see from sellers. So that's kind of the path that I'm seeing. Obviously you can throw wholesale in there or private label or anything along that path, but still for new sellers, I still believe the best way is to start out with arbitrage in some way, whether it's reverse sourcing or OA Simplified type methods, and then moving up that ladder of complexity, but also, I guess ways to make your business a lot more protected. So that's kind of if I were to look at all of this from a bird's eye view, that is what I would recommend for a lot of people. Because we're still seeing tons of success. You can still find plenty of replenishable products using traditional arbitrage methods and even reverse sourcing methods if you do a little bit of extra homework, which is still, for a lot of new sellers, I would think easier to do a couple extra steps than to learn all the keywords, all the different things up front when they don't have any experience on Amazon as a platform.
Yeah, correct. But they're searching with keywords.
Exactly.
Reverse sourcing is keywords.
Yep. Absolutely.
You have them crawl before you walk, before you run.
Right. We got to trick them into figuring out that they're searching for keywords.
Let me just say something here too. The demand hasn't changed. Customer demand hasn't moved an inch. There's not a single Amazon shopper out there today that's going, oh, I'm not going to go shop on Amazon today because the GTIN issue eliminated some ASINs. Not one of the billions. Okay.
Yep.
So that means all of the ASINs that were kind of okay last month are on fire now.
Yep.
If they meet these qualifications. The game hasn't changed at all. You find underserved listings and you sell on them until something forces you to stop. It's not profitable. Amazon shuts it down. The brand goes out of business. Your competitors tank the price. Until one of those things happen, you sell. So new sellers, good news. You could go find 40 great ASINs today if you want to. Any of us could.
Yeah.
And that's what we teach.
Yeah.
The strategies for doing that haven't changed at all. That no one's going to show up at your house and smack you for selling on an ASIN that's going to be shut down a month from now. You might lose it. That's why we say don't send in 8,000 units of anything. Send in 4 or 5 or 10 tops. Worst case scenario, you recall them and sell them on eBay. None of that's changed. So if any of our newer sellers are seeing any of this as overwhelming or scary or, oh no, you're not hearing. This is for more advanced sellers who have large catalogs, who have seen a percentage of that catalog face some challenges recently. How are we going to navigate that? If you're new, you kind of actually have an advantage because you're playing with the new rules from day one.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps our new sellers put them at ease, because I'm seeing some comments from new, like, does this all still work? It works better than it ever has.
Right. Right.
And now when they go away, you'll have less competition, less listings that you have to put in and see 10 of them that are, questionable. You could sell on all 10, but now there's going to be 2 or 3 instead of all 10. So it's actually a pivot just means better to meet a customer demand and finding a target audience. And that's really what Amazon is wanting to do, is make it a better customer experience for their customers. They're not our customers. So they're not here to hurt us. They're here to help us as sellers to reach our customers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll add to that a couple of things. Yes, we spent money this week and we bought replens that we've been selling and some new ones too. And we sent them in. We sent a lot of items in this week. And we bought replens that we've been selling and some new ones too. And we sent them in. We sent a lot of items in this week. And we bought replens that we've been selling and some new ones too. And we sent them in. We sent a lot of
Turn
items
your volume down, Kate. That might be the problem.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Kate's in a loop.
Does anybody have the stream open on another channel? I don't know what's going on.
Kate entered the matrix.
Does anybody have the stream open on?
Now Jimmy's in a
Is it
matrix.
better? We're good?
They're both frozen. Oh, now they're not. Woohoo!
What was that?
No idea.
Anyways,
I thought you were a robot, Kate. There's 4 of you, aren't there?
I was like, do I keep talking or do I stop? I have no idea what I was saying. We sent inventory in this week. We are charging on ahead. And then the second thought with that is Leanna has a way to continue forward that might not be as daunting as what Nathan was talking about. And so I would say there's like a middle ground position that you could step into, learn the ropes. Those listings might not be around forever. If you created them the way that Leanna is teaching, nobody really knows what it's going to turn out to be. Amazon probably doesn't have a clue what it's going to turn out to be. It's been a constant growing and changing for the 20 years that they've been doing this now. And so I just find that there's low, middle, and high, levels that you could work at and still be moving forward with growing your business and finding your solutions there. Yes, I'd love to fix the ones that I am seeing go down, because what is it? Simpler and easier for me to do a keyword search, find a listing, and just sell it, right? Rather than going through all of the extra effort, which I am also doing to create new listings. So I am following Nathan Bailey's and Leanna's paths that they've carved out in front of us, right? So a year and a half ago, I finally said, you know what? I see it's coming. I'm getting brand registered. Gonna just buckle down, figure it out, and do it. So
think about what's more daunting, not doing it right and paying the price down the road for that, or doing it right. You know what? It's here's the thing is right now it seems daunting because it's foreign and it's new. But once you figure it out and you get good at it, and like me, I don't build listings anymore. I have VAs that do that are better than I am at it now because I've trained them, and then they're just great artists and they do what they do. But what I always do though is I'm always involved in the ad copy side of it. That's the part that's daunting, right? Is the right keywords in the right places. Now, something that I think people need to know also along with this, a change that's been implemented. Let's say you go and get a GTIN exemption for generic on a listing that's a multi-pack or something that you're going to list on Amazon, right? That generic listing, if you put the brand's keyword of that brand, right, in the first 6 to 8 keywords in the listing, you're going to get hammered by Amazon. They're not going to, you're not going to rank. They're just going to exile you to page 20. But, this is a good thing to do. But, in terms of writing out a listing, I use Helium 10 to do everything just so I can see all the character count and get the keyword data ported into where I build the listing in Amazon. So this learning curve, in the beginning, I'll agree with you. It is a little daunting to build a listing building a listing on eBay. Man, I have it down on my phone. I can build a listing on eBay in under 5 minutes, just bam, bam, bam. But on Amazon, I'm an hour to 2 hours per listing minimum, right? And you know what? That's when I go in and build it. But I build the listing outside of Amazon before I put it up on Amazon first. So the listing's built on my end. I've got everything set up. I've got all my data and I've got all my images and ad copy and all that stuff put together. It's not, you know what? If you're serious about this business, it's what you'll do to stay relevant as a seller and profitable. Like Jimmy, we did brand registry with you, and that yours was like the smoothest brand registry I've ever done.
Yeah, it was. It was a couple of years ago, but yeah.
But sometimes I have people where they've had a problem with their account in the past. Amazon wants to fight over giving them brand registry. I mean, it's only happened a few times, but for me, I'm in it to find the solution. And if there's a problem, come to me. And let's figure out the solution together and then share that with other people, right? So that we can do it right. So that down the road, we're not getting our butts kicked, which is way more daunting to come back from, right? You can't, doing it's not enough anymore. You have to do it right.
Absolutely. All right. So I know that we're at an hour and 20 minutes right now. So if anybody on the panel has to jump off, I understand. I don't know if y'all planned for an hour or not, but I just wanted to throw that out there. I want to get a little bit more into the bundle side, just as like an organized topic for using this as an opportunity for bundle creation. And so there's a few different ways to do it. Some of the non-branded, am I back in the matrix? I can hear my voice again. Did somebody open up a Facebook page? We're good. Okay. So yeah, use it as an opportunity for bundle creation. You can do it from a non-branded standpoint and a branded standpoint. One thing to keep in mind is this list that you have, as I showed at the beginning of this or midway through the webinar of how to get this list of ASINs, you can utilize that as, okay, where do I want to start with building some bundles? What are some of these listings that I can now capture for myself from the non-branded or the branded side? And so I'm going to start. Leanna, what are some of the things that you're doing because I know that you have both a brand and non-branded. What are some of the things you suggest from a non-branded bundle side? And then we'll kind of move into the branded with both you and Nathan.
First of all, let me clarify what you think is non-branded versus branded.
To me, non-branded, I mean non-brand registry, like getting your trademark, all of that stuff.
Okay, non-registered brand.
Yes, that's what I think of.
Okay, non-registered brand means a brand that's not registered through brand registry. Because in order to get brand registry, I'm not against brand registry. I have a brand registered brand, but I built it before I went to brand registry because I needed to prove that I had a brand. I needed to show that I had a brand in the market and that it is relevant and mine and in use in order to get approved for my brand registry. So I teach, I help people get a non-registered brand approved on Amazon. So the listing is a brand in the brand field, but it's my brand. So it's a non-registered brand. I don't do generic. I do not teach generic bundles for the reason it's searchable. First of all, everybody can search generic and find them. I don't want them to jump on my listing, right? But I make my listing with unique item created and designed by me to where I could claim copyright. So there is coverage to protect mine. I've never had anybody jump on one of my listings in over 6 years. So I've never had to compete. But my bundles are replans. I use the replan model. I use it. I tell them you have to have a base of replans to get the momentum, to learn the process, to know how to operate and do it. You just don't jump in to doing bundles and jump into doing brand registry and go, now what do I do? So I have them help them with the understanding replans and drive what sells into making a bundle as an anchor that is going to drive the sell for you. And that is non-registered brand. And then I then have the brand, I have a logo, I have it built, and you can then prove when you apply for trademark that you have a brand and give that to your attorney, show it, and your site or store, do Shopify landing page, because you already have your product and everything inventory. You're not starting from scratch. So that's what I consider a non-registered brand. And then I moved into brand registry and built my brand registry from those items and found my niche. So
perfect.
And now I built it off of Etsy because I created the unique item. I built it off of Shopify, and I have my own business site on Pinterest. I build and market everything through Pinterest.
Okay. Awesome. That's actually, so whenever, Nathan, you had alluded to us working with you to get to get our trademark, we had started with non-brand registered, listings. That was our own brand. And then we used that as the first use requirement for getting the trademark. And so I think that's maybe what made it so smooth for us, because you said it was one of the smoothest processes. Do you think that that's the reason why, Nathan, or is there a different reason for?
It's part of it, but you're just very thorough. You were just you following the instructions. I don't know what it was, dude. We just work well together. It took us about 2 weeks from the date that you said, hey, I want to set up brand registry and a trademark, Took about 2 weeks. We had the serial number. We had what is called a first, is for the people that understand, you have to have an image that is it's called the first in use in interstate commerce. That means you have a image of a product that you created that has your brand name in clear writing on it. You take a picture of it. Don't edit the image. Don't remove white background. They want an unedited image, right? Just take it, put it in your hand, shoot a picture of it. And that is called first in use in interstate commerce. That means take that product that has your brand name on it, throw it in your trunk, drive down the freeway. You are now first in use in interstate commerce.
Yep.
So, yeah, I do feel that having something that you can put into your own packaging or add your own unique relevant item, but I wouldn't do that necessarily to do a first in use image, because you have to figure out what's your class. Right? I sell toothbrushes, so you're in the toothbrush class. I sell popcorn, so I'm in the popcorn class. And you don't want to go out there and get in a class of product that you're not really protected in for intellectual property. You could say, oh, I'm in the popcorn class, but I sell, automotive over here. And so you're not protected in the automotive class, so you can't do a cease and desist if you need to. So the trademark stuff, I'm happy to spend time. And by the way, I saw a question that was asked about, how can we learn to build a listing properly? Well, I created a course, and as quickly as we could, we got it into the Proven Amazon course. If you have a Proven Amazon course membership, you're going to want to hop in there. The Proven Brand Building course is in there. I go through a lot of this stuff. What is the trademark process like? What is the GS1 process like? I go through and I literally build a listing with you on that training. We go through it, everything. So there's a lot of good stuff. Then we talk about branding too. Is how do you build a brand? What does that all entail? And yeah, it's a process. It's a fun process, but it's work. But if you put in the work now, you're going to reap what you sow, right? And I think now more than ever, because of this happening, it revealed our blind spot, which is a good thing. Now we can fail forward through it and get better at this. And where the real opportunity opens up here for bundle creation is figuring out which list. Kate, you're actually at an advantage over everybody because of this, because you have a list of all those listings that were purged. If you have 200, I want that list. Give me that list. I'll build those listings with you. I'll invest the money in the product with you. Let's go. Because what happens is the customers are still there. Whoa, that product that I bought, it's not there. Let me go into my orders. Oh, I can't even review it anymore. It's not even there anymore, right? There's still demand. And if you know the products that got purged, right, you are at a huge advantage, even if you don't have brand registry. But here's the problem with that. If you don't build the listing properly with the right UPC, with the right system, the same thing's just going to happen again. The Amazon AI is going to pick you up and purge you out again. Right? Because they don't.
Yeah.
If it's done incorrectly. And so, doing things, I mean, we could still do GTIN exemption, which I do all the time for stuff. For every brand, when I get a brand set up and I set up their brand registry, the first thing I do is have them get a GTIN exemption for their brand. Right? And you don't have to have the UPCs, but here's the problem. If you're going to bolt down to something long-term and you don't put the UPC on it, you're asking for trouble. You're asking for that drop shipper to put the wrong UPC in at Walmart. And it's just part of organizing your business, keeping all of your digital assets together, right? Your reports, your images, your titles, bullets, descriptions in one place. I'm actually building something where you can store it, everything for your business, your P&L. I have a system that pulls the report for my clients off of Amazon and puts it into a system that gives them a P&L on their reports. It's amazing. But it not only does it store all that, it stores everything, right? Their images, their details, all kinds of stuff. So the cool thing about this is creating a bundle, right? And doing it right and storing the data and having everything set up like you should with the business, where you have standard operating procedures, right? This is going to force you to be more intentional about what you're doing and not take that path of least resistance. You know, I see so many people thinking, oh, I'm going to start out with private label because that just looks like such the path of least resistance, versus walking down a store aisle and filming all the products, right? And typing in, instead of scanning a barcode, you mean I got to manually type it in, right? You know, it's like, I can't tell you how many times people come to me and went, yep, I started out with the path of least resistance, and man, I just wasted a ton of time and money. And I'm like, come back to this lower hanging fruit here and start there and work your way back up. Right. So Jimmy, you're right. You know, going back to lower hanging fruit, to the replens model, to the basics of just doing, you know, a simple, you know, where the listing's already listed there. But the one step you have to take now is that, is this listing set up properly? Does it actually have a UPC that matches the GS1? And if it doesn't, you know, you may want to look for another replen. You know, you may want to look for another product line.
And so one question I do want to ask, what is the process to get the information off of those ASINs, off of those ones that are now removed from the catalog? How do we get all the information that we need so that we can properly create the best bundle moving forward? And I'll start with Leanna.
Download the bulk list from your suppressed at risk. Do it as a bulk download. Save it either in it, if you know Excel, do Excel. I transferred mine into Google Sheets because I can share it and build it out by category, etc. So if you know your own process from in an Excel, or bring it into Google Sheets, then you have all those ASINs. Download, copy all those ASINs, go into Keepa, go into Listing Finder, not Preview, but Listing Finder, not Listing Finder. You find and click the list. You can have up to 10,000. I did a video in Legends. You can have up to 10,000 ASINs. You just paste it there, and it will gather all the data from those ASINs. Images, ASINs, their drops, their ranks, their sellers, all that data. You could create the columns that you want to keep, the information you want to keep, the information you don't want to keep. Download that list, make that as your data, and then you know, maybe in order, you could put them in order of what is important. Do a tab that this is my top 1%. Evaluate your business. You got to know your numbers and know your business. You go on the back end before it goes away and look at your top orders. Look at your order list of how many orders you got. All of that, you could look at that and do your top sellers. Go back to that list of data and go to those ASINs. I'm a helium-10. I train it all day long. Go down. That's what I use for reverse ASIN. You have to find some software that does reverse ASIN. There's many out there that do it. Whichever one that does reverse ASIN, go to reverse ASIN, which is Cerebro on helium-10, and it will gather the data on the back end of search volume and what is driving that sell. Or you could go, while it's live on Amazon, I do Scope. You can do a download, keyword download on Scope, gives you the download of those ASINs, what's driving the sell. It's a little different algorithm in its Scope as it is its helium-10. And leave the history, because it saves in helium-10 as history, and you just put the ASIN in as the name, and it was history there. Or you could download it on your top, bring it down and bring that into your ASIN history of what driving the sell. So you'll have that to when you do make a listing. You'll have your data, you'll have what it's ranked, you'll have the keywords that drive the sell, etc. And then you're ready. You can plug those in and create the listing through Scribbles and see the rank and what is going to. Scribbles is a free part. They have a listing builder, but that's on the higher end of helium-10 for just the ones that want just not having to pay the big price. Scribbles is you can use and build a listing using Scribbles. That's what I have recommended in Legends. And I'm going to plug, if you want and make that pivot, it has been pivoting for probably, I did my retreat in the 1st of August. It has been pivoting to have people start to do that. Go to Jim Cockrum Coaching sign up for coaching and have people help. I'm honored to say that I'm brought on as a coach for Jim now, and have us help you build those listings and that pivot happen.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Leanna. I appreciate it. I'm sure there's probably some comments from some people because obviously that's a process that it's great that you knew that off the top of your head. So people are probably gonna have to go back and rewatch this, write it down in order because I was following it. And so basically and I'm going to share the presentation one last time real quick. So once you get this list of listings here, you download that in bulk, and then that's where the process starts of taking those ASINs, putting them into Keep Data Product Finder, getting that data.
Go to the next slide. The list of all of those. That up to the top right is where it says download in bulk. That's where it says up there is where you download from this list, not from your spot, but from this list.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. And then whenever you get those ASINs, put them in the Keep Data Product Finder, get the data for those, and then start with your best ones after you download that using Helium 10 or some other software like that.
And download that data because that data is going to go away.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep. Okay. So then store that, take those ASINs to Helium 10 or some other software similar to it, although Helium 10 seems to be the one that's most recommended by everybody. So yeah, we'll
and I know Chip, maybe you do, but I have an affiliate link. They changed now that you get 20% off for 6 months.
Okay.
So you can hit any of us up and
yeah. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to say we've got some questions left to go, unless anybody else has anything else from the panel perspective that you just want to end on. I want to make sure we get some of these questions. We aren't going to get to them all because we're at an hour and a half right now. But does anybody else have anything that you want to discuss or add before we get to some of the questions? No one? Okay, so there were a few that were posted beforehand. Let me go ahead and change that. So now we're in the Q&A. A few that were posted beforehand. I'm going to go through those real quick, and then I'll get to some of the live ones. So this first one, should we create a new listing for listings that we expect to be affected, though aren't yet, to start to gain traction on it? And if so, how, when title will need to be so similar to the affected listing? We've kind of discussed that throughout, but yes, if you want to start making your own bundles, my perspective is you would want to start creating that listing now, get some traction on it, get some training. I mean, Nathan mentioned the course in the Proven Amazon course that's available. If you want a coach to help you with that, it's jimcockrumcoaching.com. So there's multiple options if you need help with that. Or just use the free My Silent Team Facebook community, ask questions, without giving away anything specific. That's where we've got multiple options for you, but that is the basics of how. If you want the details of how, that's in the course. Leanna?
Sorry. Yeah. I see this, and I've been creating listings for so long. If you had 25 sellers that are all getting that same GTIN notice that it's going away, it's not going to solve the problem if all those 25 sellers try to create a listing. Mm-hmm. You're just creating another nightmare for Amazon. So if you want to create it as your own listing, then you would have to add a unique item that brings value, that becomes your own listing, instead of creating just another listing of a multi-pack or bundle that became a seller. You got 25 other people are going to be creating that same listing because they don't want it to go away. Mm-hmm. So you got to think a little bit more on the advanced side of creating it as your own, because there's no point creating another listing if it's not going to be your own, because you're going to have, it's not going to be a buyer experience that Amazon wants.
And it doesn't have to be something complex that you're adding as your unique, relevant add-on product. Although the more unique and relevant you are, the more that you're going to find that golden gap. But also there's the aspect of that product that you're adding to the bundle. If you're adding a product to a 3-pack of Sweet Baby Ray's hot sauce, that Amazon's policy is that product needs to be the most expensive product in the bundle, right? If you're putting it under your brand, right? But they're not enforcing it. They're not enforcing this policy right now.
Not yet.
I'm sure they will. So
not yet.
I take
Brand Registry. I talked to them about that, just so you know. I talked to somebody and they said that is actually going to be rewritten. They are going to change that policy because it always says a higher priced item. But if you're creating it and you're buying it wholesale or buying it through Amazon, a unique item I don't just do a magnet with your logo. Bring value. Bring value that you actually work. You can, but it doesn't bring any value, or stick a sticker in it. That does not bring any value, because it has to be priced at a point that you're meeting that requirement. So you're doing everything correctly. So create it to where it could be, because it's your work. You could say price it at the highest price. That's the value of it being yours and owned by you.
Yep. Well, what I do is I list the fridge magnet individually for like $50. No one's ever going to buy it. But here's why I like the fridge magnet, and why I think almost every product out there that you're doing a unique bundle, you should make a fridge magnet for your business and add it in, and just add it in always, is because if they use that fridge magnet and they put it on their fridge, how many times do you go to your fridge a day? And they're seeing your brand every day, and it's holding up sweet little Susie's little picture of mommy and daddy that she colored with the crayons, and your brand is holding that up. Think about that psychologically for a second.
The only way I'm paying $50 for a fridge magnet, Nate, the only way I'm paying that much is if it's got your face on it, dude. Otherwise, there's no justifying that
I
price.
understand that, but that at the same time, I have to teach. I don't want to say to do a magnet with a bundle, because it doesn't. I'm looking at them going, I don't want that magnet. Who cares what that brand is, unless it's a brand that they like. But if you have a fridge magnet, you have to realize high percentage of kitchens and appliances, that magnet will never stick to, because it's stainless steel.
Hey, you have to go to the side of the fridge. I've got that problem.
You have to go to the side of the fridge, so no one's seeing it anyway.
And so if it's not
and
a good
if you have a house that's not have a side, they're never going to see it. So value and understanding your audience.
If Jeff Schick was here, Jeff Schick, one of our favorite lawyers, who I asked him this exact question just a few days ago, because he's actually seeing brands push back against bundles they don't like.
Yep.
And so it's a topic I'm going to go in deeper, not to get into the weeds right now, but this is what he said just a few days ago is kind of, it's kind of a best of everything that we're saying right now. Like a $50 fridge magnet, that's a hard sell. And I know you're kind of exaggerating the point you're making, Nate, but if it's a monogrammed item that has some value, he said like some cleaners with a monogrammed towel, for example. A monogrammed Nike towel might go for $30, $35 at a golf shop, right? Okay, so now you've got a nice, valuable item that you can put with your Windex sponges and Windex bottle, right? And it's your branded bundle now. But, throw the magnet in too to get those repeat orders. Nothing wrong with having a magnet.
But don't make that your only relevant product.
But now if Windex pushes back at some point, against like, what's this towel doing? They're ruining our brand for, that's not an expensive item that distinguishes that brand. They're not going to push. They're going to see the value in it. Amazon's going to have your back when the brand pushes. That's the point I'm trying to make. And this could be another hour topic, guys, because there's a lot of gray area.
To that real quick. Yeah, no, but something to add to that real quick. What I'm doing is when I sell Colgate, right? I've got it in a little Ziploc pouch. I'm hiding the C in Colgate behind the sticker that's on it, so that they can't do an intellectual property claim, because I'm not fully exposing their brand in the images. Right? If they don't like it, tough. I'm not infringing on your intellectual property. I have first sell doctrine which means if I bought this product legally and legitimately, and I have invoices to prove it, I can legally and legitimately sell the product. Mm-hmm. We've actually won legal stuff against big companies that they just left us alone after, we said, no, sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing too. And by the way, I'm going to put a hard stop here in 15 minutes. So we'll get through as many questions as we can in that point, but because we could go on all day probably on these topics. But the beautiful thing, fridge magnet, no fridge magnet, straws, pencils, whatever you want to do, it's up to you if you're creating your own bundle and your own brand. So just think through it. Think about what you want to do. And I think that ultimately everybody's going to have different opinions or different perspectives on what they want to add into it, but it's yours, right? Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of this. Once you start going into the branded bundles, after you've already gotten the base of some replenishable products and arbitrage and getting used to Amazon, you can really make make the business your own by pursuing bundles and pursuing some of these other strategies that we've talked about. Let me make sure. Did you have something, Kate?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
But it leads us away from how to create a branded bundle, because a lot of us are saying, how do we fix what we've got already? Right? I just want to fix what I've got already. I'm a private label seller, or I've got a wholesale brand that I work with, and they don't have their listing set up correctly. And so there's a lot of, how do we get around all the gates that Amazon has put in place that prevent us from correcting the errors in the listings, which I find to be really annoying. Although I understand why they're there, because I know the dude that comes in on my listing and changes my listing to an electronic item and with some crazy brand name in it is doing the wrong thing. And it really bothers me that he's able to do that illegally. And Amazon is trying to prevent that from happening. And so then when we who are trying to correct errors go in, we're facing those gates because Amazon is really trying to protect the site and keep it intact. So a couple of things that I have done, there are some mixed brand listings that I am on and have sold for a long time. And I opened cases on those affected listings and said, could we please change the brand field to generic on this listing, because it is a custom bundle. And I have only gotten 2 yeses out of all the cases I've opened, but I got 2 yeses. So I was really excited to see, okay, I seem to have found that on occasion, you're going to get yeses, and you may be able to correct some of these listings and get them out of the doghouse for having the wrong brand in the brand field that doesn't match with the rest of the way the listing was set up. Then the other things that we've talked about in all these different places is listings you control. So you control them, but they were set up so long ago. Some people are having the success that Leanna posted the steps for. I've seen several different people commenting and saying we have actually had some success with deleting the listing, waiting the 24 to 48 hours, using the bulk upload system, and then going back in and re-uploading. Now, I asked Leanna to clarify for sure that she was having, she had received instruction to have people re-upload the listing information, and instead of the UPC as the identifier, to use ASIN as the identifier, or if you have GS1 established with the brand in the brand field that of a listing that you control, then to place that there. But what Nathan said, with them not allowing UPC changes there, I just kind of wonder, it's a hit or miss situation where you are going to win and some and lose probably a lot more.
Yes, they just don't. The brand registry told me that doing it with the new GS1, it will not allow you to change UPC code, period. But if you change the product identifier, you can change it by an ASIN. So that keeps that ASIN. The reason is it keeps that ASIN live, but with your same SKU. So everything in that ASIN is kept, but the UPC that tied that to that ASIN goes away. That's why I wanted to say that structure of an ASIN is really important to understand.
Yeah.
But does that require that you have a GTIN exemption for that brand to do that?
You have to, no, you have to be the owner of record of creating that listing and still have control of that listing.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And then
I posted it in, was it the Replan group? I did it in Legends, but I did it in the Replan group. There's a post comment from what brand registry suggested me to do for one of my clients. So.
right. And then there's the struggle that we've heard, okay, just create a variation on a listing. Well, if you don't have permission to list under that brand, you have to ask for permission to list under that brand, and they may not allow you to put a new item on that listing, the existing listing. And then the other ideas were to try to merge listings together. And again, the trouble that I have seen in my own efforts is I create the correct listing with the brand in the brand field and the correct UPC, because there are listings out there that do have the correct UPC, and all they need is for the UPC to be added correctly, right? So we've gone through and tried that route. And then you ask them, please merge these two together. And they say, no, because you're not the brand owner.
Yep. They changed the new brand owner. The new brand policy was changed in April of 2020, and they just updated it again in July. So when they changed the listing creation process to bring in GTIN application and brand application within the manual listing is when they changed the brand field. So that's why they no longer, because you used to be able to create it with the UPC code, generate an ASIN, and then go in and change the brand. You can't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it won't, you have to be the brand owner, authorized brand owner.
Right. So running into all of these closed doors is why we've run into the whole discussion of, all right, fine, let's create new branded bundles and how to do that. But I am still attempting different changes and requests just to see what will they answer me, how will we proceed, and get it in the record. I guess it's got to be something where Amazon sees what all of our requests are and what we're firing off in cases. So
and you are doing all the work that maybe I hope other sellers are doing, that these ASINs will be survived. If you got two and somebody else got two, and if somebody else got two and somebody else got two, then those ASINs could still be viable, which is promising. So I'm sure all the sellers that become viable appreciate that work and effort that you're going through instead of just letting it go.
Good deal. That was the hope.
Yeah, Kate, it's amazing. It truly is. And if I had some, I'd be doing the same thing. And I'm doing it on the private label side and going, we just need to lock arms and get it all out there that we're all on the same page, trying to help all of our people that we care about besides our friends.
Well, and it probably answers this question actually from Debbie, who commented on the YouTube channel. I had something really strange. I had two ASINs from the same brand that were supposed to be brought down yesterday. She looked and they aren't in the list, but they also weren't brought down. So maybe it was another seller that fixed it, right? Also, there's somebody in the Facebook group this morning before I hopped on here that said that they were expecting the worst, watching the listings being taken down one at a time since morning to noon, but then all of a sudden, in the afternoon time, many of them just got reinstated and became live again, including some of the previously deleted ones, and she didn't do anything. So there's potential that, in some cases, maybe Amazon is seeing these and reinstating them, but it also might be that the sellers are fixing them, or everybody's trying different things. And so some of them work, as Kate and Leanna just discussed. So keep trying.
Also, sure. Once they go into stranded, if the listing's been taken down, that appeal button tends to lead nowhere. And sometimes it doesn't lead nowhere. And so it's asking for more information, like please provide an updated or corrected GTIN so we can update the value in this ASIN. That's hopeful, right? If you end up with that kind of response. So once they go into stranded and they're gone, doesn't mean give up, right? Go through and see if you can appeal, go through and see if you can now do some edits or open some cases and say, let's fix this listing and see what happens. I mean, the door can be closed. And I know there's this book called like Go for No or something like that. And I read it and I'm hitting my quota, man. I'm getting all my no's in. So, for those yeses to show up.
I love you, Kate.
Thanks.
All right.
No, it's just another request for information.
Right.
That's whenever I get a no, that's all it is. It's just a request for more information.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the next, I'm going to just kind of bundle some of these together. We had Matt Roberts asked, should we search the GS1 database for every ASIN we source? And then somebody on Facebook, one of the groups said, so what's the best way to source for replens now? Stick to single product that matches the UPC. So to me, these are similar questions. We did discuss a lot of this throughout the webinar. I would say you can continue to search for replens with the reverse sourcing methods. You don't have to scan UPCs, but you do want to check the GS1 database to make sure that they match with the brand that's on Amazon. However, as Kate had also mentioned, if you're more of kind of somebody that's willing to take some risks, you could list it for 48 hours, see if it pulls up as an issue. If you list it fulfilled by merchant, if there's no issue, then you could always send it in, and you seem to have 30 days from that point to try to sell out. So if you don't want to go to all the extra effort, you could try that. But if you want to be 100% sure, checking the GS1 database will definitely answer that question. Did you have anything to add, Kate, on that? Okay. Question for Nathan. I purchased my UPCs from GS1 under my parent company. I want to create branded bundles under one of my store names that's different from my parent company name. Can I use the store name as the brand name, or do I have to use the parent company name because that's the name present at GS1?
Your store name is completely different from what your company's brand name is. If you don't have brand registry, it's not going to let you do this, but you can actually have brand registry for multiple brands in your Amazon account and have multiple separate stores for each brand. But the GS1 company prefix has to match the same company that owns the trademark to do this properly. It's just, getting everything to match up in your Amazon account is really the challenge. The address on your tax stuff, the name of your corporation, the address that's attached to, everything's got to match, right? But your store name and your brand name are two separate things. And you'd have to go off of your brand name to get it to show up under that particular brand. And like I said, you can set up multiple stores under multiple brands in one Amazon account if needed. But the company that owns those brands that's listed on the trademark application, right, has to match as the owner of all those brands, and it has to match the account owner. So if this person's LLC, is the owner of the brand, this person's LLC, it has to be the owner of the Amazon account, right? And then the company prefix on GS1 has to be this person's LLC as well, with the same addresses. It's all got to match.
And you help people with that at Hummingbird, right? Hummingbird.com.
Yep, you guys go to Hummingbird. There's a button right there at the front that says let's get humming, and that will set you up a schedule link to talk to our people. We've been quite busy because of this issue. I've had about 50 people inside our coaching program contact me and be like, okay, what do I do? Right. And so this, the first thing I'm going to do is go back to the Facebook group and watch this live. Right. Because I think we've been very thorough about covering not just, what's the root cause, but what are those solutions, right? And branded bundles may not be the solution for you. It's a bit more work, but if you're a person that takes massive action, I would be just doing this anyway.
Absolutely.
I'm right now, Oscar Matumbo, that I tell you, Jim, we're building 1,000 listings.
Wow. That's awesome.
Think about that for a second, 1,000 listings, and it's taking me but it's not taking me a couple hours to do, but the VAs that we have per listing. So I've got 2,000 hours worth of work for my VAs now. Wow.
That's insane, but it's awesome. I mean, it's a good opportunity, right? If you take these listings, you can definitely turn them into a much better opportunity moving forward. So
and stay on them. The ones that stay on them, but automatically anyways, create your own brand, get something relevant that you can add to it. And be creative about that. Don't just add something to add something, because I have a feeling that's not going to work for very much longer. We don't know. Amazon's a moving target, right?
Right. All right. We got 2 minutes. We're going to do rapid fire questions. All right. So this is from Debbie. Question for Kate. Are you listing on listings with no UPC?
Yes, I am.
Perfect.
We got to keep pressing forward.
Yep. All right. So which is the course that's good on creating new listings? If you're doing separate from the Proven Amazon course, which has that course, which course within the Proven Amazon course is the one?
Proven Brand Building.
Proven Brand Building. Awesome.
So you can go to provenbrandbuilding.com, but if you have the pack course, it's in there for free.
Okay. And Nathan, how long is it the process to go through the proven branded course?
Isn't that about 7-8 hours
Um,
of content?
And
full
I'm
course?
so long-winded. It's a lot. It's a lot of
No,
information to digest.
you did a
Sloan
great
Steady
job,
wins
though,
the
man.
race.
You really stayed locked in. 7-8 hours.
Well, there's a bunch I've got to add to it because it's changing, right?
Sure.
Like, for instance, someone asked a question really quickly about titles. We'll hit that question too real quick. If you're doing a bundle listing, it has to say toothpaste, toothbrush, travel kit, set includes Colgate, this, that. Do you know what I'm saying? It has to say includes, or, you know,
You
what I'm
can't
saying? It
put
has to be
Colgate at the
identified that
front.
it is a bundle.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So that's where you'd want to place that you'd want it at the end of the title, the brand name.
And
That's
put
the
the
proof of
brand
brand building.
name, put the brand name like 9 keywords into the title, not right there in the first 6 to 8.
Okay.
I do it different. The rules of title is bundle with. You have to have bundle and with in the
Bundle
title.
with. Yep.
Bundle
Bundled
and
with
with,
or
because then it negates having to worry about, it lets Amazon know that it's not a Colgate bundle. So you have to have bundle
Yep.
and with.
Um,
And that's in the listing guidelines on Amazon.
And so somebody here had asked what tools you use to do keyword research for creating a listing. We had mentioned Helium 10, so I'll go ahead and just reiterate that. Let's see. I'm going to do one more question, which I feel bad because there's probably about at least 20 or 30 other ones. Let's go with, I'll just go with this one right here. This is the perfect spot probably to stop. If you've never sold anything on Amazon, is now still a good time to start? And Jim, I'll let you handle that.
Yes.
Yes.
You go listen to about 40 podcast episodes of people who were clueless a few months ago who build incredible businesses. That's our podcast. If that doesn't convince you, we can't convince you. So
absolutely.
Don't be intimidated. Now's a great time to start. The only better time to start was 10 years ago. The next best is right now, today. Like kind of like planting a tree. When's the best time? 20 years ago or right now?
Yeah, what is it? The best decision
easier.
you can make is the right decision. The second best is the wrong decision, and the worst is no decision at all. So go ahead. Yeah, there's some truth.
It's getting easier and easier for a new person to get going and get started now compared to what it was like 25 years ago. And there's newer technology, there's better systems, and not only that, there's a bigger audience. It'll be that way for probably the next 25 to 30 years. Before I feel like, like television hit its peak, right? Like the internet and selling stuff online. I say it's still got a 25 to 30 year period of time where the playing field is absolutely leveled.
E-commerce is still only 15% of all retail sales in the US. 15, not 50. 15% of all retail is online. It's going to be 30% in our lifetimes or more. So it's going to double in the next 10, 20 years.
Yeah, it's insane. The opportunity is definitely still there. It's still growing. And I'm excited for it. I mean, it's always difficult to see these issues come up. I know it affects people tens of thousands of dollars of profit. And some people I've seen posting. But, the only way to not push through and get more success is to just stop and quit. So take a lot of the stuff we've talked about here. I've seen a lot of people, or a few people anyway, post that they'd like to see more of these types of webinars. So hopefully we can do some more similar panel type discussions across a wide variety of places throughout the community. Somebody asked if this, since they're just jumping in now, will it be available to view in its entirety? It will be posted, whatever group you're watching this on now, whether it's my Ask Jimmy Smith YouTube channel, or it's the My Silent Team Facebook page, or any of the Legends, Replens, or Q4 groups. Wherever you're watching it, it will be available in that spot right after we're done. It may process, but other than that, it will be available pretty much immediately. So everybody, thank you so much. Everybody on the panel, thank you for taking 2 hours out of your Saturday to be here and answer questions. We will keep everybody in the community updated as new things come out. Maybe we'll learn some new things and we'll make posts or do a video again at some point. But everybody, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great rest of your day and a blessed rest of your week.